The world had changed in a single evening. On the night the stars moved, every nation on Earth looked upward. People stood on rooftops, in open fields, and on crowded city streets. Traffic stopped and conversations fell silent. In the sky above, a streak of silver light carved across the darkness, too slow for a meteor and too steady for a satellite. The object shimmered as if wrapped in liquid glass, bending the starlight around it. Governments scrambled. Radar stations went into overdrive, trying to understand the incoming visitor. Military forces were put on alert, though no one knew what to aim at. News channels ran endless loops of blurry footage, and social media filled with speculation. Some joked, some panicked, some prayed. The object slowed, and that alone terrified scientists who understood the physics. Nothing slowed like that unless it had a pilot, or something far more advanced. Within hours, the world had an answer. The silver craft, shaped like a long arc of crystal, descended into high orbit around Earth. Its size dwarfed the International Space Station. Every telescope on the planet pointed upward. The visitor's surface shimmered with patterns that shifted like water, a design no human had ever engineered. At first there was silence, then every communication channel on Earth, from radio towers to deep-sea cables, lit up at once with a single repeating signal. It was not sound, not words, but a cascade of tones and pulses that somehow threaded through all languages. The message was clear, even without translation. "We come in peace." The first response in Washington. The president stood with advisors around a glowing table of live feeds. Similar scenes played out in Moscow, Beijing, London, and Delhi. For once, all the world's leaders had the same problem and the same lack of answers. The United Nations headquarters in New York became the center of coordination. Ambassadors and scientists worked side by side, attempting to decode more of the alien signal. To everyone's amazement, the visitors had already adapted to Earth's languages. Within a day, they sent their first true words. "We are the Tharquin. We greet you, people of Earth. We bring knowledge and friendship." The message was delivered in perfect English, Mandarin, Arabic, and dozens of other tongues simultaneously, echoing through radios, televisions, and phones. Children in villages heard it on cheap speakers. Astronauts heard it in orbit. The world trembled with excitement and fear. The landing site. After several days of cautious communication, the Tharquin requested a place to land and meet in person. Their choice surprised everyone. They did not ask for Washington or Beijing, not Moscow or Paris. They asked for a neutral ground, Greenland. The icy open landscape provided little risk and no crowded cities. Within days, temporary structures rose on the frozen coast near Nuuk. Engineers set up landing pads, scientists erected monitoring equipment, and soldiers from dozens of nations formed a perimeter. Yet even as they guarded the site, orders were strict. No weapons raised, no acts of aggression. The world watched. Billions of people stared at screens waiting for history. When the alien ship finally descended, the air trembled with energy. A shape like flowing crystal slid down through the clouds, glowing faintly as it came to rest above the landing pad. It did not touch the ground. Instead, it hovered silently, as if the very air held it in place. A section of its surface rippled like water, and an opening formed. From within, 3 figures emerged. The Tharquin appear. The aliens were tall, slender, with limbs longer than a human's. Their skin shimmered with faint patterns of light, as though stars lived beneath their surface. Their faces were smooth, with large dark eyes that reflected everything they saw. They wore no helmets, no heavy suits, only flowing material that moved like mist. Though alien, their posture was calm, not threatening. One raised a hand in greeting, a gesture strangely familiar. A hush fell across the crowd. Dr. Elena Marquez, a linguist chosen by the United Nations, stepped forward. Her heart pounded, but her voice remained steady as she spoke the prepared words. "On behalf of Earth, we welcome the Tharquin. We come in peace as well." The lead alien inclined its head. Its voice, when it came, was like a choir of tones woven into human words. "We thank you, children of Earth. It is rare to meet a new world. Rarer still to find one ready for the stars." The words spread across every broadcast, translated instantly. Humanity held its breath. The world reacts in homes across the globe. Reactions varied. In Tokyo, a schoolteacher cried as she watched with her students, whispering, that they were witnessing the greatest moment in history. In Cairo, families gathered on rooftops, pointing at the sky in wonder. In rural Kenya, farmers leaned on their tools, listening to the translated message on old radios. In São Paulo, children waved handmade flags at television screens, but not everyone celebrated. Military commanders studied the alien ship with sharp eyes, calculating its potential as a weapon. Scientists whispered among themselves, if the Tharquin could cross the stars, what else could they do? Religious leaders debated what the arrival meant for faith. Hope battled fear in every heart. The first exchange, the aliens offered gifts. They unfolded small devices that projected shimmering images of distant worlds, of stars seen from angles no human telescope had ever reached. They showed structures of light, bridges across voids of space, and cities built upon oceans of gas. We share knowledge, said the lead Tharquin. You may learn. We may learn. Human scientists leaned forward eagerly. The visitors spoke of cleaner energy, medicine that healed without cutting, and ships that folded the fabric of space. But there was something subtle in their tone, almost parental. As if they saw humanity as a younger sibling, bright but inexperienced. Some smiled at the thought. Others bristled, a moment of suspense. During the exchange, one of the alien devices malfunctioned. A panel of glowing crystal sparked and cracked, releasing a pulse of energy. The nearest human soldiers instantly tightened their grip on their weapons. For a tense moment, the fragile piece seemed ready to break. But then, something unexpected happened. A human engineer, young, nervous, but quick-thinking, stepped forward. Without waiting for orders, he examined the device. He recognized patterns of energy flow, something like circuits but stranger. Using only his basic tools, he redirected the current and stabilized the crack. The alien who had brought the device tilted its head in surprise. Then it spoke in a tone almost like admiration. You adapt quickly. The small incident passed, but it left an impression. Humanity had not simply stood frozen in awe. It had acted, the closing of day one. As the sun set over Greenland, the meeting ended with cautious optimism. The Tharquin promised further dialogue. They would remain in orbit, watching, learning, and teaching. Humanity promised cooperation. Cameras captured the moment as the alien figures returned to their ship, which shimmered upward into the night sky until it vanished among the stars. On Earth, the world erupted into conversation. Governments planned meetings deep into the night. Citizens filled the streets, some cheering, some protesting, all alive with the electricity of change. Dr. Elena Marquez returned to her quarters, exhausted but restless. She replayed the alien's words in her mind. Children of Earth. The phrase carried weight. It was kind but also dismissive. Were humans truly only children to these beings? Or was there more to the story the Tharquin did not yet understand? The night ended with more questions than answers. Yet one truth was undeniable. Humanity was no longer alone. The first days after the arrival of the Tharquin were filled with wonder and confusion. Humanity had dreamed of visitors from the stars for centuries, yet no one had truly been ready when the dream became real. Across Earth, people asked the same questions. Who were these beings? Why had they come? And what did they really want? The Tharquin had spoken of peace, of knowledge, of friendship. Their voices carried no threat. Yet beneath their calm words, many sensed something else, a tone of superiority. They saw Earth as young, fragile, and inexperienced. World leaders debated in secret meetings. Should humanity trust these visitors? Should they show weakness or strength? The answer came in the form of a request from the Tharquin themselves. An invitation to witness on the 7th day after landing in Greenland. The alien ship sent a message to every major capital. We invite you to see. We will show you the power of the stars. The message was simple, but its meaning was clear. They wished to demonstrate their abilities, to prove their technology was beyond anything humanity could imagine. The United Nations quickly organized a viewing. Representatives from every continent gathered once again in Greenland, flown in by military aircraft or sleek diplomatic jets. Scientists, generals, engineers, and cultural leaders stood side by side, wrapped in heavy coats against the polar wind. The alien ship hovered above the ice like a silent guardian. When the humans had gathered, it moved higher, positioning itself over the ocean. The waters churned as if responding to its presence. Then the demonstration began, the Tharquin show. Their power, a beam of soft blue light, extended from the ship into the sea. The ocean beneath boiled and parted, revealing the seabed. With a hum that resonated in the bones, the ship lifted a massive boulder, larger than a skyscraper, from the depths. It floated into the air, weightless, before crumbling into fine dust that vanished like smoke. The crowd gasped. The Tharquin spoke through their translators. "We bend matter. We command gravity. With us, no world is beyond reach, no danger beyond control." Next, the ship opened panels along its sides. From within emerged smaller drones, each one shaped like a shard of crystal. They darted through the air with impossible speed, weaving patterns faster than the eye could follow. Then, as if obeying a silent command, they merged into a single shining structure, an arch of pure light hanging in the sky. "This is how we travel," the alien voice explained. "Space itself is a road we can shape." The humans watched in silence, struck by both beauty and fear. If these beings could move stars and shatter stone with ease, what defense did Earth truly have? The uneasy silence. The demonstration ended with a final display. The alien drones projected an image of Earth itself, glowing like a jewel in space. The voice of the Tharquin carried pride, as if speaking to children. "You are at the beginning of your path. With us you will not stumble. We will guide you." The words stirred mixed emotions. Some delegates smiled, impressed. Others frowned, feeling the sting of condescension. General Marcus Hale of the United States whispered to his aide, "They think we're fragile. They don't know us at all." Across the gathering, other commanders and scientists felt the same. Humanity had survived wars, disasters, and endless struggles. Humanity had crossed oceans, climbed mountains, and walked on the moon. Was Earth truly so helpless? The silence grew heavy. It was Dr. Elena Marquez, the linguist from the first meeting, who finally spoke aloud. "We thank you for showing us your strength," she said carefully. "But perhaps you would also like to see ours. The human proposal." The suggestion surprised everyone, both humans and aliens. The Tharquin tilted their luminous heads as if amused. "You wish to demonstrate? Your weapons of fire and metal are limited, but if it eases your spirit, we will observe." It was meant as kindness, but the tone carried a hidden smile. World leaders quickly approved. If humanity was to stand as equals, they could not only watch, they had to show what they themselves had built. The site of the human demonstration was chosen, a remote desert in Nevada, far from cities and crowded lands. The Tharquin agreed to attend, sending one of their smaller vessels to hover above the sands. Cameras from every nation were set to broadcast the event. Billions prepared to watch. The desert gathering. The day of the human demonstration dawned bright and hot. Across the golden sand stretched a carefully arranged field of equipment. Missiles, railguns, drones, tanks, and experimental prototypes. Engineers rushed about, checking every system. The Tharquin vessel arrived silently, casting a shadow across the desert. From within, 3 aliens emerged, the same tall figures as before. They walked forward calmly, their starlit skin shimmering under the desert sun. General Hale stood waiting with his team of commanders. He saluted sharply, then turned toward the array of machines. "Welcome to our proving ground," he said. His voice carried through speakers so all could hear. "We may not shape gravity or bend matter, but we have our own strength, born from necessity, from survival, and from imagination." The demonstration began. The human show of power first came the railgun. Engineers loaded a tungsten slug into the long barrel. With a deafening crack, the weapon fired. The projectile streaked across the desert faster than the eye could follow, striking a reinforced target a mile away. The impact shook the earth, leaving a smoking crater. The Tharquin tilted their heads. They had expected noise and destruction, but not speed beyond their sensors' immediate capture. Next came the drones. Hundreds of small machines lifted into the air, forming swarms that danced like flocks of birds. They shifted into formations, split apart, and rejoined in seconds. With a signal, they swarmed over mock targets. Tanks, structures, even a moving vehicle. Within moments, the targets were neutralized with stunning efficiency. Then came the hypersonic glide vehicle. A sleek missile launched upward, vanishing into the sky before curving back down. It struck its target with such speed that the sand itself turned to glass. The aliens watched in silence. Finally, General Hale gave the last order. A network of satellite-controlled weapons fired in coordination, From land, sea, and sky came a strike so precise that multiple targets across the desert were destroyed simultaneously, each hit timed within fractions of a second. The dust settled. Where once had stood mock defenses, now there was only silence and smoke. The unexpected moment, for a long pause, neither side spoke. The desert wind carried only the sound of settling sand. Then one of the Tharquin finally spoke. "Impressive, you are efficient." But beneath the calm words was a trace of something new, not amusement, not superiority, something closer to caution. To emphasize the point, one of the engineers stepped forward and addressed the aliens directly. "These are only the weapons we are willing to show," he said quietly. "What we keep in reserve is far greater." The Tharquin made no reply. The shift in understanding that evening, the alien representatives returned to their ship. They spoke to one another in tones too complex for human ears. But their meaning was simple. Humanity was not what they had expected. They had thought Earth would bow before their brilliance, grateful for guidance. Instead, the humans had revealed a different truth. Though young by galactic standards, they were fierce, inventive, and unyielding. One alien spoke a phrase that carried unease. "They are not children. They are hunters who learn to build." On Earth, meanwhile, the reaction was electric. Citizens cheered the demonstration, proud to see their world stand tall before the stars. Scientists debated the future with renewed hope. Soldiers spoke with quiet satisfaction. For the first time since the Tharquin arrival, fear gave way to confidence. Humanity had shown it would not kneel. The closing scene as the desert night fell. Dr. Elena Marquez stood beside General Hale, watching the alien ship rise back into the sky. "They came to show us their strength," she said softly. "And we showed them ours," Hale replied. Elena nodded, but deep inside she knew the story was only beginning. The aliens had seen humanity's weapons, but they had not yet seen humanity's true power. The will to survive, the creativity born of struggle, the unity found in times of challenge. Somewhere above, the Tharquin were rethinking their view of Earth. And on Earth itself, billions of people felt the same new thought burning bright in their minds. Perhaps the galaxy was not theirs to guide. Perhaps it was humanity's time to lead. The desert demonstration had changed everything. When the Tharquin first arrived, they had looked down on humanity with kind amusement. They had called Earth a child among the stars, a world in need of guidance. But after seeing railguns crack the air, drones swarm like angry flocks, and hypersonic weapons strike with frightening precision, the aliens no longer smiled so easily. Their view of Earth had shifted, and so, when the next meeting was called, it was different from the others. There was less condescension in the aliens' voices and more curiosity. They no longer wished only to show humanity what could be learned. They now wanted to understand humanity itself. A request for stories, the Tharquin sent a message to the United Nations. "We have seen your machines. We have seen your tools of war. But machines are not the heart of a people. Tell us of your path. Tell us what shaped you." World leaders debated the request. Some feared revealing too much. Others believed it was an opportunity to prove humanity's resilience. In the end, they agreed. The aliens would be given a history lesson. The location chosen was not a desert or icy plain this time, but the Great Hall of the United Nations in New York City. Flags of every nation lined the walls. Delegates filled the seats. At the center, a stage was prepared where both humans and Tharquin would sit. Cameras were ready, broadcasting to every home across the globe. For the first time, the alien visitors walked openly through a great human city. Crowds filled the streets watching as the tall, shimmering figures moved calmly past skyscrapers and monuments. Children waved flags. Some people bowed their heads in prayer. Others simply stared, overwhelmed. Inside the hall, the history lesson began. The alien history first. The Tharquin spoke of their own past. Long ago, their people had risen on a world of oceans and floating continents. They were a patient species, skilled in thought, not in battle. They had never fought great wars among themselves. Instead, they built slowly, layer upon layer, until they reached the stars. Their history was one of unity, of progress without much conflict. When they met other species, they shared knowledge freely. Few resisted them, for their technology was vast and their wisdom deep. They became known as guides of the galaxy, mentors to younger civilizations. When they finished their tale, the hall was silent. Many humans were impressed but also unsettled. Their history sounded so different from Earth's. Then came humanity's turn. The human stories begin, Doctor. Elena Marquez stepped to the podium once again. She had been chosen as one of humanity's voices, not because she was a soldier or scientist, but because she understood words. She knew how to tell a story. She began simply, "Our path has not been easy. Our history is full of struggle. But it is through struggle that we grew strong." She told of humanity's earliest days when survival meant fighting storms, wild beasts, and hunger. She described how small groups of people built shelters, hunted food, and learned to use fire. From the beginning, she said, we were forced to adapt. Where one group lived in deserts, another lived on frozen tundra. Where one crossed mountains, another sailed the seas. We survived in places no other creature would dare to stay. The aliens listened in silence, their dark eyes reflecting her words. The rise of civilizations, Elena continued. She spoke of the rise of great civilizations, of rivers that gave birth to cities, of builders who raised stone monuments, of thinkers who created writing and numbers. But even then, she said, our growth was not peaceful. We argued, we fought. We clashed over land, over belief, over pride. Many died. And yet from each struggle came something new. Tools, ideas, discoveries. On the screens behind her, images appeared. The pyramids, the Great Wall, ancient libraries, and sailing ships crossing oceans. We did not choose an easy path, she said. We chose a hard one. And because of that, we learned to endure. The Tharquin shifted slightly, their glowing skin dimming and brightening as if in thought. The age of discovery and struggle next. A historian named Professor Adewale Okoye took the stage. His deep voice carried power. He spoke of the age of discovery when humans crossed vast oceans with wooden ships. He spoke of new lands, of trade, of exploration, and also of mistakes, of conflicts, of suffering that followed. Our history is not clean, he said firmly. We have done wrong. We have hurt one another, but each mistake was a lesson. Each hardship forced us to change, to grow. He showed images of revolutions, of people rising for freedom, of leaders speaking for justice. Where others might have broken, we endured, he said, and we built something stronger each time. The age of machines, then came the story of machines. Scientists stepped forward to describe the birth of industry, the rise of steam engines, railways, electricity. They spoke of how humanity reshaped its world, building cities of steel and towers that touched the clouds. But they did not hide the cost. We polluted our air. We scarred our lands, one engineer admitted. But when we saw the harm, we fought to change. We built cleaner engines, stronger medicines, better ways. The Tharquin leaned forward slightly, listening more intently than before. They had expected only prideful boasting, but instead humans spoke with honesty, about mistakes as well as triumphs. The Age of Conflict General Marcus Hale then approached the podium. His uniform shone under the bright lights, his medals glinting. He did not soften his words. Our world has known war, he said. Great wars, terrible wars, conflicts that burned continents and shook the earth. We do not hide this truth. Gasps filled the hall from watching citizens, but Hale pressed on. But from each war we learned. We learned discipline. We learned courage. We learned that unity is stronger than division, and we learned that peace is worth fighting for. He described how after the worst of wars, humanity had built organizations of cooperation, how former enemies became allies, how science flourished when guns went silent. Do not mistake us, he said, his voice steady. We do not love conflict, but conflict shaped us. It forged us like steel in fire. That is why we stand today as survivors. The Tharquin exchanged glances. Their kind had never known such trials. To them it was both terrifying and impressive. The leap to the stars finally. Elena returned to tell of humanity's leap into space. She described the first rockets, fragile and small, that carried people beyond the atmosphere. She spoke of astronauts walking on the moon, of probes reaching distant planets, of telescopes peering deep into the universe. We are only at the beginning, she said, but we reached for the stars long before we knew you existed. We reached because it is in our nature to explore, to test our limits, to see what lies beyond. She paused, letting her words settle. Perhaps we are children, as you say, but we are children who have survived storms, fire, and endless struggle. We are children who learned to dream of the stars even before we could touch them. The aliens reflect. The hall fell silent. Billions of humans across the planet waited for the Tharquin response. For a long time, the aliens did not speak. Their eyes shimmered and their skin glowed with slow ripples of light. Finally, the lead figure stepped forward. Your path is strange to us. You rose through fire and shadow. You built strength from conflict. We cannot imagine such a journey, for it is not ours. And yet, it explains what we have seen. Your machines, your resilience, your determination. The alien paused, and when it spoke again, its tone was different. Perhaps you are not as young as we thought. Perhaps your fire is what makes you strong. The words sent a quiet thrill through the hall. Humanity had not been dismissed this time. They had been acknowledged. A whisper of caution, but not all was reassurance. In private, aboard their ship, the Tharquin spoke in their own language. These humans are not like others we have guided, one said. Their history is not gentle. It is sharpened by conflict. They are clever, but also dangerous. Another replied, yes, they survived by fighting. If they see the galaxy as another challenge, what will they do? And a third whispered, perhaps they are not to be guided. Perhaps they are to be watched. The human pride on Earth, however, the response was joy. Citizens filled the streets with celebration. For the first time, they felt the Tharquin had truly listened. Their history, full of pain and triumph, had not been hidden. It had been their greatest strength. Children in classrooms spoke proudly of explorers and scientists. Workers in factories smiled, knowing their struggles were part of the story. Soldiers stood taller, honored by the recognition of sacrifice. Humanity had told its tale, and in doing so had shown that it was not weak. The closing scene that night. Elena stood by the East River, gazing at the alien ship glowing faintly above the city. The skyline shimmered with lights and people still cheered in the streets. She thought of the words the alien had spoken. Your fire is what makes you strong. Yes, she thought. Fire was dangerous, but it also gave warmth and life. Humanity's fire would not be easily extinguished. Above, the Tharquin ship drifted silently, and though no one could hear, its crew whispered among themselves, realizing a truth they had never faced before. This species will not be led. This species will one day lead. The history lesson had left the Tharquin unsettled. They had expected to hear of gentle growth, of slow steps toward the stars, of a peaceful species eager to be guided. Instead, they had listened to tales of struggle, storms, wars, and survival against all odds. Humanity had been shaped not by comfort, but by fire. Now the aliens whispered among themselves. Could such a people be trusted with the knowledge of the stars? Or would they use it with reckless force? The answer, they decided, would not come from words. It would come from a test. The message 2 weeks after the Great History Exchange, a message spread across the world. It came from the Tharquin, carried on every channel. People of Earth, there is danger among the stars. A machine world drifts near the outer colonies of our allies. It consumes all in its path. We go to stop it. Will you come with us? The message stunned leaders everywhere. This was no peaceful cultural exchange. This was an invitation to war, or at least to a battle. At first, many hesitated. Earth's fleets were young, its starships few and untested. Humanity had only touched its own solar system. To stand beside the Tharquin against some galactic threat seemed impossible, but pride stirred. Earth had already shown its machines and told its history. If they refused the challenge now, would they not look weak? Within days, the decision was made. Humanity would answer the call. The human fleet, the world's space agencies and militaries gathered everything they had. The Americans launched their newest carriers, each one bristling with railguns and drone swarms. The Europeans prepared frigates designed for deep space defense. Russia sent heavy cruisers, tough and simple, built to endure punishment. China launched sleek, fast ships armed with hypersonic missiles. Even smaller nations contributed, sending satellites and support craft. It was not a vast fleet, not compared to what the Tharquin could summon. But it was united. For the first time, Earth's nations stood side by side under a single banner. Humanity. General Marcus Hale was chosen to lead. His voice carried steady resolve when he spoke before departure. We may be new to the stars, he told his crews, but we are not new to survival. We will face this test and we will show them who we are. The journey the Tharquin ships guided Earth's fleet through folded space. For human crews, the experience was both terrifying and wondrous. Stars bent and stretched like rivers of light. Distances that should have taken centuries passed in moments. On the journey, the Tharquin explained the threat. The machine world had once been a colony of another species, but its machines had grown beyond control, turning against their makers. Now it wandered the galaxy, stripping planets for resources, devouring everything it touched. "We have stopped such threats before," the alien guide said calmly. "This one will be no different. You will see how we protect the stars." But the humans exchanged looks. They did not come only to watch. They came to act. The machine world at last, the fleets arrived. Before them hung a dark planet, its surface crawling with metallic growths like a cancer. Towers of steel rose miles high. Rivers of molten metal flowed across the crust. In orbit, vast machines drifted armed with beams of energy and swarms of drones. It was alive yet not alive. A world of machines, hungry and endless. The Tharquin moved first. Their ships shone with light, releasing waves of energy that bent gravity and tore drones apart. Their weapons folded space, making enemy ships vanish into nothing. It was beautiful, terrible, and precise. But the machine world adapted. More drones poured out. Beams of raw power struck against Tharquin shields. The battle grew fierce. Then came humanity's turn. The human strike General Hale gave the order. The human fleet advanced, smaller and weaker, yet filled with determination. Railguns fired slugs at impossible speeds, punching holes through machine towers. Swarms of drones raced forward, weaving through enemy defenses, striking weak points the Tharquin had overlooked. Missiles screamed across the void, some destroyed, others slipping through to explode with devastating force. Lasers from orbital platforms cut through enemy swarms. Human commanders worked quickly, adapting in moments. When enemy patterns shifted, human tactics shifted faster. Where Tharquin ships moved with elegant precision, human ships moved with raw creativity, turning chaos into advantage. At one point, an enemy signal jammed Tharquin communication. Their formations faltered, but the humans improvised, switching to hidden backup codes and handshakes, coordinating with speed the machines could not predict. "Push forward," Hale commanded. "Cut off their core!" The turning point as the battle raged, one human engineer discovered something crucial. Monitoring the enemy signals, she noticed patterns in the machine transmissions. They were not random. They were vulnerable. Working with her team, she wrote a program to slip into the machine network. It was dangerous, untested, but it could work. With Hale's approval, they launched the attack. The program spread like fire, confusing the machines, turning their signals against themselves. Suddenly, enemy drones began colliding, firing at their own towers. Beams went astray. The great machine world stuttered in confusion. The Tharquin ships seized the chance, unleashing their full power. Together, humanity's ingenuity and the aliens' strength, the machine world cracked. Towers fell. Energy cores exploded. The surface split open in fiery eruptions. At last, the machine world fell silent. The threat was ended. The aftermath, when the battle was over, silence filled the void. Ships drifted, damaged but alive. On Earth's fleet, crews cheered and wept. They had faced a galactic nightmare and survived. More than survived, they had won a victory that even the Tharquin could not have claimed alone. In the alien flagship, the Council of Commanders gathered. Their luminous eyes reflected uncertainty. "These humans," one said slowly, "they adapt faster than any we have seen." "They turn weakness into strength," another added. "They are dangerous," whispered a third. But even as they spoke, they felt a growing respect. Without humanity's quick thinking, without their reckless courage, the machine world might still stand. A new reputation, news of the battle, spread across the galaxy. Other species far away heard the whispers. The humans fought beside the Tharquin. The humans defeated the machine world. The humans are not weak. On Earth, the reaction was even stronger. Citizens cheered in the streets. Children played games pretending to be starship captains. Songs were written, stories told. For the first time, humanity did not only see itself as small in the universe, it saw itself as part of it. The private warning, but not all, was celebration. In a private meeting aboard their ship, the Tharquin Council spoke in low voices. "They are powerful," one said. "They are unpredictable," said another. "They are supreme in ways we cannot match," said a third. They remembered humanity's history of conflict, their machines of war, their endless drive to survive and to win. They saved us today, the leader said, but if one day they turn against the galaxy? No one finished the thought. The silence was heavy enough. The closing scene when the human fleet returned home, they were greeted as heroes. General Hale stood tall as his ship landed, crowds cheering wildly. Scientists, soldiers, and engineers walked proudly, knowing their efforts had changed how the universe saw them. Dr. Elena Marquez, watching from the crowd, felt a quiet certainty. The test had been passed. Humanity had shown not only its weapons but its heart, its courage, its creativity, its refusal to surrender. Above Earth, the Tharquin ship still hovered, silent and thoughtful. They had come as teachers. Now for the first time they wondered if they were the ones who had lessons to learn. And across the stars, whispers spread ever louder. Humanity is not to be guided. Humanity is to be reckoned with. The machine world was gone. The battle was over. Yet the true story of humanity was only beginning. The fleets returned home carrying scars and triumph. But in the silence of alien councils and the proud voices of Earth, a greater truth unfolded, one that would reshape the galaxy forever. Returned to Earth when the human fleet arrived in orbit. The world below erupted in joy. Cities lit up with fireworks. Crowds filled the streets waving flags of every nation. Screens replayed the battle again and again, showing the moment when the machine world cracked apart, showing human ships weaving through chaos with unstoppable courage. For the first time in history, Earth was united not by fear, not by war against itself, but by victory among the stars. General Marcus Hale stood at the front of his command ship as it descended into Earth's atmosphere. He looked out at the crowds waiting below. He felt pride but also a heavy thought. Had they truly understood what they had done? To humanity, it was triumph. To the galaxy, it was revelation. The alien council far from Earth, the Tharquin gathered in their great council chamber. Their luminous forms shimmered in the soft glow of the chamber walls. They had guided civilizations for ages, offering wisdom, offering peace. Now they faced a question no council had asked in 1,000 years. What are we to do with humanity? One elder asked. They are strong, another said. Too strong. Stronger than we expected. They learn too quickly. They fight with imagination. Where we move with precision, they move with surprise. They make chaos into victory. They could become the greatest ally, or the greatest danger. The council sat in silence, feeling the weight of truth. For all their power, the Tharquin had never met a species like this. Conversations on Earth while the aliens debated. Humans celebrated. But some leaders and scientists saw more than glory. They saw the questions left behind. Dr. Elena Marquez was one of them. She had helped design the program that confused the machines in battle. Now she sat with other scientists at a conference in Geneva. They underestimated us, one scientist said. Maybe, Elena answered, but perhaps we also underestimated ourselves. She looked around the room. We have always thought of ourselves as small, trapped on our planet fighting our own battles. But out there in the galaxy, we are something different, something greater. The aliens know it. We must understand it too. Her words spread quietly among the thinkers of Earth. Pride filled their hearts, but so did responsibility. A private meeting later, General Hale was invited aboard the Tharquin flagship. There he met with Elder Thariel, a leader of the Alien Council. You fought well, Thariel said in a voice like deep music. Your people showed courage and creativity. Without you, the machine world might have survived. Hale bowed his head slightly. We did what we had to do. We protect our home. That is what humanity has always done. Thariel studied him for a long moment. Do you know what you are, General? You are not only survivors. You are not only warriors. You are a force, a supreme force in the galaxy. And that truth will change everything. Hale said nothing, but deep inside, he knew the alien spoke the truth. Whispers across the stars' news of Earth spread quickly. On distant colonies, alien species who had long feared the machine world now spoke the name of humanity with respect. Traders told stories of humans who fought like storms. Explorers whispered of human ships moving with reckless daring. Some called them heroes. Some called them dangerous. All agreed on one thing. The galaxy could no longer ignore Earth. A moment of reflection on a quiet night in New York, Elena stood on a rooftop looking at the stars. Around her the city glowed with lights, celebration still filling the air. Yet her thoughts were far away. She imagined the galaxies beyond, filled with civilizations, filled with wonders and dangers. She thought of the Tharquin Council speaking in whispers, unsure what to make of humanity. They see us as supreme, she whispered to herself. But what will we do with that power? For the first time she realized the real test was not the battle. The real test was what humanity would become now. The fear of the Tharquin in their private chambers, the Tharquin leaders argued again. They may one day challenge us, said one elder. They may one day protect us, said another. They are not like the others we have guided. They will not be guided. They choose their own path. At last, Theriel spoke. Perhaps that is their destiny. Perhaps the galaxy was waiting for them. We must decide not how to control them, but how to live beside them. It was a revelation. For the first time in ages, the Tharquin understood they were no longer the center of the galaxy. Human unity. Meanwhile, Earth was changing. Nations that once competed now worked together. Factories that had built weapons for each other now built ships for the stars. Children dreamed not of soldiers fighting on Earth, but of explorers sailing among galaxies. General Hale watched this new unity grow. He felt hope. Humanity had been divided for so long, but now the universe itself had pushed them together. Still, he could not forget Theriel's words. A supreme force. The great revelation months later, the Tharquin returned to Earth. In a grand hall built for the meeting, leaders of humanity gathered with the alien elders. Theriel rose, his form glowing softly. People of Earth, he began. When we first came, we thought to guide you. We thought you young, fragile, in need of wisdom, but we were wrong. You are not fragile. You are strong beyond measure, stronger than any we have seen. You adapt, you endure, you rise. The hall was silent as he spoke. You are not students of the galaxy. You are its supreme force, and the galaxy will change because of you. The words echoed across the hall, across Earth, across every broadcast channel. The response, General Hale stood to answer. His voice was calm, steady, carrying the weight of his people. We are honored, he said, but we are not supreme to rule others. We are supreme because we endure, because we fight for survival, because we never stop reaching forward. If we are to shape the galaxy, let it not be with conquest. Let it be with courage, with unity, with discovery. The hall erupted with applause. Even the Tharquin bowed their heads. A new dawn that night, celebrations filled the Earth again. But this time it was not only joy for a victory past, it was hope for a future to come. Elena watched the stars again and felt a quiet certainty. Humanity had stepped into its place, not as a follower, not as a child, but as a force that could guide its own destiny. The Tharquin had realized the truth. Humanity was the supreme force of the galaxy, and now the galaxy waited to see what humans would do with that power. Closing scene. In the depths of space, on a distant station, alien traders gathered. One asked another, "Have you heard of the humans?" "Yes," the other replied softly. "They fought the machine world. They fought beside the Tharquin, and they won." The first alien leaned closer. "What do you think they are?" The other answered with a whisper, almost fearful, almost in awe. "They are the beginning of a new age."